Hey folks, walk with me. Well, this video is going to be a little bit broken up, but we're going to take a look at the winter garden, which I feel is probably reserved for prettier, more illustrious looking things, but I wanted to sort of get it out there early on as to what things look like now, but there's definitely more plans afoot. So let me just set the stage and then we'll cut to the actual spaces that I'm going to talk about. So I have an upstairs space, like a ground level space, where I have some things in a nice sort of bay window, I guess it's called. And I'm trying to keep sort of flowery, nice smelling, prettier things up there because it's, sort of in a area of the house where you could, you're more likely to be around it more frequently. And so I figured, nice sights and smells would be better served in the space where people are. So I brought some stuff in and I'll talk about some stuff that I plan to put up there. But there's a grow light there that's an AeroGarden that certainly benefits the plants around it. And then in the basement, which is super ugly because it's completely demoed right now, it's waiting to be renovated. But I figured while it was demoed, I might as well use it as extra indoor garden space. So there, I try to put the large container stuff, the vegetables that I'm planning to grow, again, because I think it's better to have them down there versus putting like flowers and stuff down there where they're not really going to be seen or smelled or whatever. Not to say anything bad about the vegetables, but that just seemed like the right sort of split. So that's kind of why things are in two different spaces. And then where we'll actually start after I cut away from this intro is in the outdoor space that was the growing beds for the summertime. I put ground cover, winter cover, overwintering. I don't know. I'm so tired and not feeling well. So excuse my misspeaking, but I'll show you sort of what I put on there to try to re-enrich the soil, get some vigor and some nutrients back into it from everything that was drawn out of it over the course of the summer and that growing season there. So that's where we're going to start, outside bed, then we'll go to the flowery ground level and then to the vegetable-y basement area, and that'll be the start of the winter garden. And then I will sort of do an update along the way, because the things that I have planted now or the things I'm trying to grow now will be different from the things that I'm starting out in like February or so. There will be a distinct change, so I can talk more about that in those particular spaces as well. All right, to the outdoor garden. All right, folks, here we are outside. We have a very foggy, rainy day today, but I'll not let that stop us. So what I planted here, so this was one of two beds. The other one is like exactly the same for the spring and the summer, I guess in the fall garden. And so to rejuvenate the soil, to get back some of the nutrients that were lost, I've planted for over the winter here peas. You see that little guy there coming up, right? A bunch of them are coming up. And then this is oats. So I put it on pretty thick, which seemed to, the instructions were talking about planting it in in acreage, which is not what I'm doing here. But it seems as though the acreage that they were talking about in the coverage was just generally put it on really thick. And so I did this one instead of like my neighbors do rye, but they have to till that under, and I can't really get in this bed, right? As you can see, it's just like this. And so I can't get in there with a rototiller, which they can walk in theirs. And so this is supposed to kind of die off and be a little bit easier to manage. And whatever doesn't get worked out, I can probably just get to with a pitchfork. So peas and oats, the one that I got was from Johnny's. which, you know, I'm using as I have to, but trying to save my seeds from what do I want to say, patented seeds that I can get. So but yeah, it's coming in really nice, and it's been in the evenings, it's been in the 30s here, so nearing freezing, and still these guys are coming in hot and heavy, even amongst all the leaves, which is the biggest pain in the butt. Actually, that's not true. The biggest pain in the butt are all these acorns that fall. These are just the caps, but we've been trying to take the acorns out, because then the squirrels come in and they dig through everything, right? And they dig a bunch of stuff up. That's what's happening right there. I had a big space yesterday that was just all dug up over here, presuming that it was because there were acorns in here, and you know, a squirrel had just dug out like this whole part. But I tried to fix it back as best I could. So I don't know if anything's going to kind of grow here, but you know, there's enough happening. And I'm going to put some compost, fresh compost on it in the springtime as well. So hopefully between whatever does come up here from the really hefty sowing that I did, plus that compost, that this does a lot to enrich or re-enrich the soil. All right, let's head inside. Okay, so here is the indoor upstairs garden, and everything sort of centers around this AeroGarden that I got as a gift, which has all of these tomatoes coming in right now. I know it looks unruly and completely out of control at the moment, but it's just because it was coming in really strong from some heavy trimming that I had done a few weeks ago. And so I'm letting it go buck wild and trying to just sort of like support the plant as I can. And then once we get through, there's about 20 or so tomatoes that are growing right now. Once I get through those, I'll probably trim it back pretty heavy, and then it can, you know, it'll be a few weeks before we get a fresh batch. But everything centers around this because that's what's providing the indoor lighting, but it works really well. I mean, I did it last year and it worked really well. Let me see if I can get some additional light in here. Nope, sure can't. So we're gonna just hope that this goes okay. But yeah, this is a little flower, and this is lavender that I brought in from outside, and I was just gonna kind of let it go as it would go. I don't know or remember what the flower is, but it had sort of a general beneficial insect attractant, and it might be something from that. This is a Venus flytrap, which I've kept alive way longer than any one that I've ever had before. It still has new heads coming. You see a tiny one right there. And I don't know what the deal is with all these ones that grew and like flopped down, but I mean, they've still been working. But I've previously had like gnats and fly challenges when I brought plants inside, and I've not had any of that this year. And I do think it's predominantly because this Venus flytrap has been working shockingly well. This is a chili pepper plant that has been doing really well. It takes a while. You don't sort of have a continuous supply, or at least I don't yet. Maybe we'll get there, I guess. I was wondering about putting that in a larger pot. So I don't know if anyone has experience or ideas, but feel free to leave them in the comments. This is a nice lavender plant that's coming in. It smells, really good. You just run your hand over it like that a little bit, and that's coming in phenomenally well. This thing here is just to hold up the tomato plant. That's getting a little bit challenged up there. And then these are microgreens, which just come in always like gangbusters. And so I use the bigger pots. I might use a couple more around this size. And I have a ton of microgreen heirloom seeds to get through, so I'm just gonna use them. So as the sort of winter goes on and some things maybe live, some things die, and I do have other pots that I can add in here. So I will add in additional things, but yeah, up here I'll predominantly go with small edible stuff like the chili peppers, the microgreens, or things that are likely to look or smell nice, right? Like this is probably really hard to see on the camera, but this does have little flowers that are nice. And obviously the lavender smells nice. The other thing that I brought up here was my lemon tree. Lemon tree I've had for almost a year, I think. I've only ever gotten 2 lemons off of it, but you see all of this happening at the moment, which is way more than I've ever seen before. It's also happening at a time when almost all the leaves have fallen off. I had brought this down in the basement, which is where we're going next. And I'm not sure if it was too cold or, you know, something about being down there was just not copacetic with it. And it's just started dropping leaves like crazy. And I was like, I need to at least get this upstairs. So I got it upstairs. It hasn't really lost any more leaves since then. So we'll see how it does. But I did repot it maybe in like July or August, and it's the very end of October right now. So we'll see, but I'm hoping that it survives, and it would be really nice if even half of these pop out lemons, because that would still be way more than I've ever had at the same time. All right, to the basement. Okay, so the basement is a disaster because it's been demoed. This was a finished part of our basement, and we wanted to redo it, and so we demoed it all. We weren't sort of able to get everything in time that we wanted to start the project, so it's gonna wait maybe until like springtime or at least very late winter. And so I thought in the meantime, I'd use it to grow some of the bigger stuff, some of the stuff that's just easier to have away from that small window space where we just were. These are wild, I was gonna say wildflowers, but what I mean by that is just sort of like flowers that were a mix that I got as like a beneficial insect attractant thing. And just turn on the light here. That'll be better. There we go. And so I brought those inside. I didn't really see a lot of upside to kind of like killing them or disposing of them. And yeah, so I figured as long as they want to stay alive, I'll keep them alive. This guy was growing in a much smaller one, and he got the old lemon tree pot. So I got this from a neighbor, a couple things here from a neighbor actually. And so I'm gonna use this to put some of the smaller stuff in. This is a very small tomato plant. We'll see if it makes it. I'm probably gonna need to try to pot it into something larger pretty soon. This is a dill that's did really well just out of the can. It kept it in the can the whole late summer, and I'm just waiting for it to go to seed, and I'm gonna save the seeds. It's just about there. This guy here in the can, and this one here in a slightly larger container is lemon balm, or is at least predominantly lemon balm. Losing some of his smell though. I'm wondering if this guy's getting a little unhappy. Yeah, so we'll see how that does. Yeah, the one, even though it's much smaller, this one is much more fragrant, and this one is losing its luster a little bit. I'm not exactly sure why, but we'll see. And then this is dinosaur kale that I brought in. It was getting eaten up pretty badly outside, but it does have some fresh leaves coming in here. I wondered if I got it inside, if it would, you know, kind of have a second opportunity at life here. So that's the goal with that. We'll see. If not, then not. And I do see already saw a little fly or gnat or something down there. So probably gonna need to get another fly trap, put it down here so that stuff doesn't get out of control. Now I can't remember exactly what I planted in these now that I come to think of it, but we'll see what they are. But I put like broccoli in one. See, we have some fresh guys coming up here. I don't think anyone's coming up here yet. Not in this guy, but in this one, we already have some coming. I did a bit of over planting in there because I wasn't quite sure the germination rate I would get. And so I erred on the side of putting a little bit more in, and then I'll just thin it out as needed. So these two are red leaf lettuce. This guy is getting darn close to having some edible leaves, and would probably help it sort of continue to sprout. So, and this guy's been in a can forever, but he's still is sort of like slowly but surely growing. And this guy actually started in a can as well, and he sort of filled it out, and then I transplanted him, and continued to do well. So I brought him in from outside. I had put some compost at the top here, kind of help with the soil quality or give it some additional nutrients. So we'll see if that does much of anything. This is an old AeroGarden that's like none of the rest of it really worked very much anymore, but the light still works, and so I'm using that for my grow light down here, and that I got from the same neighbor where I got that little holder thing where I'll put a bunch of cans in to get stuff started, especially around like February, March, when I'm looking to get stuff started that I will then transplant into the outdoor garden. It's gonna be my big effort this year, is to not put as many seeds straight into the ground, but try to get stuff going in here and then transplant them out. Well, there's the winter or early winter garden plan for you. I hope that was, I don't know, interesting for some folks, or that you enjoyed sort of seeing what I have going on. I'm always keen to get any advice, any comments below on ideas or anything you notice that maybe isn't apparent to me, but you think would be helpful. All right, folks, thanks a bunch for watching, walking, whatever you did for this. And as always, I will see you in the next video.